Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, U.S. House of Representatives. 2018 election. Ocasio-Cortez was among a slate of nationwide Justice Democrat/brand new Congress candidacy announcements live-streamed on May 16, 2017. In August 2017, she attended the Netroots Nation Conference in Atlanta, appearing on a panel with fellow candidates on how to run a grassroots campaign that puts people above party. Ocasio-Cortez was the first person since 2004 to challenge the Democratic caucus chair, Joe Crowley, in the Democratic primary. She faced a significant financial disadvantage, but said, "You can't really beat big money with more money. You have to beat them with a totally different game." Nearly 75% of her donations were small individual contributions, while less than 1% of Crowley's contributions were. The Ocasio-Cortez campaign spent $194,000 to the Crowley campaign's $3.4 million. Ocasio-Cortez had not previously held elected office, and her campaign video began with her saying women like me aren't supposed to run for office. On June 15, the candidate's only face-to-face encounter during the campaign occurred on a local political talk show, inside City Hall. The format was a joint interview conducted by Errol Louis, which NY1 characterized as a debate. On June 18, a debate in the Bronx was scheduled, but Crowley did not participate. He sent former New York City Council member Annabelle Palma in his place. Ocasio-Cortez was endorsed by progressive and civil rights organizations such as Move On, Justice Democrats, Brand New Congress, Black Lives Matter, and Democracy for America, and by gubernatorial candidate Cynthia Nixon, who, like Ocasio-Cortez, also challenged the longtime incumbent, Andrew Cuomo, in the 2018 New York gubernatorial election. Governor Cuomo endorsed Crowley, as did both of New York's U.S. Senators, Chuck Schumer, and Kirsten Gillibrand, as well as New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, 11 U.S. representatives, 31 local elected officials, 31 trade unions, and progressive groups such as the Sierra Club, Planned Parenthood, the Working Families Party, NARAL Pro-Choice America and Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, among others. California Representative Ro Khanna, like Ocasio-Cortez, a Justice Democrat, initially endorsed Crowley, later also endorsing Ocasio-Cortez in an unusual dual endorsement. Following her win, Ocasio-Cortez explained her campaign strategy. "I knew that if we were going to win, the way that progressives win on an unapologetic message is by expanding the electorate. That's the only way that we can win strategically. It's not by rushing to the center. It's not by trying to win spending all of our energy winning over those who have other opinions. It's by expanding the electorate, speaking to those that feel disenchanted, dejected, cynical about our politics, and letting them know that we're fighting for them." Primary election. On June 26, 2018, Ocasio-Cortez received 57.13% of the vote, 15,897, to Joe Crowley's 42.5%, 11,761, defeating the 10-term incumbent by almost 15 percentage points. Time called her victory the biggest upset of the 2018 election so far. CNN made a similar statement. The New York Times described Crowley's loss as a shocking primary defeat on Tuesday, the most significant loss for a Democratic incumbent in more than a decade, and one that will reverberate across the party and the country. The Guardian called it one of the biggest upsets in recent American political history. Her victory was especially surprising as she was outspent 18-1. Merriam-Webster reported that searches for the word socialism spiked 1,500% after her victory. In a sign of her outsider status, as of 11 p.m. on Election Day, Crowley had not phoned Ocasio-Cortez. She believed he did not have her phone number and stated that she did not have his. Earlier in the evening, however, Crowley, an amateur guitarist, had played a cover of Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run at his election night watch party by way of conceding defeat, having dedicated it to Ocasio-Cortez. Bernie Sanders congratulated her, saying, "She took on the entire local Democratic establishment in her district and won a very strong victory. She demonstrated once again what progressive grassroots politics can do." Noam Chomsky saw her victory as a quite spectacular and significant event. He believes her win shows a split in the Democratic Party, and he thinks that she was right in saying that the policies she's outlined should have brought appeal to a very large segment of the population. Several commentators noted the similarities between Ocasio-Cortez's victory over Crowley and Dave Bratt's Tea Party movement supported 2014 victory over Eric Cantor in the Republican primary for Virginia's 7th congressional district. Like Crowley, Cantor was a high-ranking member in his party's caucus. After her primary win, Ocasio-Cortez endorsed several progressive primary challengers to Democratic incumbents nationwide, capitalizing on her fame and spending her political capital in a manner not usually seen even in unexpected primary winners. Without campaigning for it, Ocasio-Cortez won the Reform Party primary as a write-in candidate in a neighboring congressional district, New York's 15th, with a total vote count of 9, highest among all 22 write-in candidates. She said she appreciated the show of support, but would decline the nomination. Media coverage. Prior to defeating incumbent Joe Crowley in the 2018 Democratic primary, Ocasio-Cortez was given little airtime by most traditional news media outlets. Brian Stelter wrote that progressive media outlets such as the Young Turks and The Intercept saw the Ocasio-Cortez upset coming. Margaret Sullivan said that traditional metrics of measuring a campaign's viability, like total fundraising, were contributing to a media failure. Ocasio-Cortez was barely mentioned in print media coverage until her primary election win. After her primary win, Ocasio-Cortez quickly garnered nationwide media attention, including numerous articles and TV talk show appearances. She appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and The View in the first few days after the primary and later on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. Ocasio-Cortez also drew a great deal of media attention when she and Sanders campaigned for James Thompson in Kansas in July 2018. A rally in Wichita had to be moved from a theater with a capacity of 1,500 when far more people said they would attend. The event drew 4,000 people, with some seated on the floor. In The New Yorker, Benjamin Wallace Wells wrote that while Sanders remains the de facto leader of an increasingly popular left, he is unable to do things that do not come naturally to him, like supply hope. Wallace Wells suggested that Ocasio-Cortez has made Sanders' task easier as he can point to her success to show that ideas once considered to be radical are now part of the mainstream. Ocasio-Cortez received backlash after barring members of the media from attending her listening tour on August 8 in the Bronx and August 12 in Corona, Queens. Ocasio-Cortez has been the subject of negative press coverage from right-leaning media outlets since her Democratic primary win in June 2018. Ocasio-Cortez criticized news outlets, such as Fox News and The Washington Examiner, for mocking her financial situation. In July 2018, conservative news outlet CRTV published a fake interview that featured footage of Ocasio-Cortez from a previous interview with PBS, spliced to appear as answers to questions read by CRTV commentator Ali Stuckey. In December 2018, Ocasio-Cortez said the media's treatment of her reveals a sexist double standard. She cited the example of Paul Ryan, who was also elected to Congress at age 28 but who was treated as a genius despite his ill-considered policies, while she has been treated with suspicion and derision. General election. Ocasio-Cortez faced Republican nominee Anthony Pappas in the November 6 general election. Pappas, who lives in Astoria, is an economics professor at St. John's University. According to the New York Post, Pappas did not actively campaign. The Post wrote that Pappas' bid was a long shot, since the 14th has a Cook partisan voting index of D+29 and registered Democrats outnumber Republicans by almost 6-1. Ocasio-Cortez was endorsed by various politically progressive organizations and figures, including former President Barack Obama and U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders. Crowley also remained on the ballot, as the nominee of the Working Families Party, WFP. Neither Crowley nor the party actively campaigned, with both having endorsed Ocasio-Cortez after her Democratic primary victory. On July 17, former Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman, who himself won re-election on a third-party line after losing the Democratic primary in 2006, expressed hope that Crowley would actively campaign on the WFP ballot line in a column in the Wall Street Journal. Dan Cantor, executive director of the WFP, wrote an endorsement of, and apology to, Ocasio-Cortez for the New York Daily News, and called on voters not to vote for Crowley if his name remained on the general election ballot. In August 2018, Ocasio-Cortez spoke at the Netroots Nation Conference in New Orleans. Ocasio-Cortez won the election with 78% of the vote, 110,318, to Pappas's 14%, 17,762. Her election was part of a broader Democratic victory in the 2018 midterm elections, as the party gained control of the House by picking up at least 40 seats.